You wanna know what's super freaking annoying when you wanna film for a YouTube video? When the neighbor decides he wants to mow and he's mowing right outside where he's like 20 feet away from my shop. And I gotta listen to his freaking mower and he's got a whole bunch of grass to mow. Anyway, I guess his yard's gonna look good though. Hey, welcome back. We're gonna do more work on the stuff for the wagon. However, we are not doing any of the sheet metal work because, man, I needed a break from screwing with those inner fenders, and I think I'm done screwing with them for now. However, I did have a deal come up recently where a very nice guy on a Facebook page who watched one of my videos was willing to provide some input. He had a, oh man, I'm probably gonna get it wrong because that's what I usually do, but he had a 64 Acadian, basically a Chevy 2, but the Canada version. And he's got a Heights front end swap on it and has the Heights inner fender kit. And he let me know that the Heights inner fender kit came with instructions. And I was like, hey, that's fantastic. And he sent me a picture of how his hood hinge brackets were installed. And you know what? I was doing it all wrong. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, I'll get into that in a later video when we go to put those parts in. As you can see over there in the background, they're all painted up and they came out pretty freaking good overall. The texture paint or the bed liner texture that I put on there in the fender well side, money. I'm really happy with that finish on that. But this video is not, I repeat, this video is not about the inner fenders. Today I'm going to shoot for, or this video, my goal is to get some basic service work done on the 700R4. We've got new tail shaft seal to put in. We've got a new governor. That was one thing, however many videos ago, when the car stopped shifting and we dug into it, found that the governor in this transmission was hanging up, cleaned that up real good, test drove the car, and it started shifting again just fine. So we're gonna put a new governor in it. And while we're at that, we're gonna put a new cover on where the governor goes because that was completely butchered. Well, not completely, it's still on there, it's still pseudo seals, but whatever the case, we're gonna replace that, given one particular thing that I'll circle back to. And then we're gonna drop the pan and see what we've got in the pan. I've got a new filter and new gasket for the pan. I hope I have a new gasket for the pan. Crap, I'm gonna have to look in the box and see if that should have a new pan gasket. If all that goes well, then we're going to marry the 700RR4 up to the 327 that's going in the car. Yep, that pretty little orange thing over there that very much looks like a grimy small block Chevy, because it is a grimy small block Chevy. We're gonna get these two units married up and hopefully by the end of the video get these in the car and be able to start looking at any of the clearance issues that we're gonna potentially have. Preliminary looked at that a while back when we set the 350 in there just to see what header clearance and steering clearance was gonna look like. Not expecting any real issues with that, but you never know. Once things actually start getting bolted in place, that can change real quick. But that's the plan. I want to get the drivetrain in the chassis and be able to start going from there so that in the next video we'll be able to do, start doing the fuel lines, start doing the brake lines, and well, we probably won't get into the wiring until I actually put the front clip on, because a lot of the wiring is going to have to run in the front clip and be mounted and hung and made to have good wire routing. And you got all the lights and everything that got to go on the grill and the electric fans and all that nonsense. Anyway, none of that matters today. All that matters today is getting this guy serviced up, getting that and this one happily married together and into the car. So, where to start? Yeah, well, what we need to do first is the pan needs to come off of this transmission before we put any new parts in it, because I do have concerns that of what might be in the pan. This transmission was in the car when I got it, and I know nothing about the transmission, and seeing as we've already had the one issue with the governor sticking, I'm afraid of what I might find in the pan. Hopefully we find just a little bit of sludge, or a pan full of good ATF with a little bit of clutch material or something in it that would just indicate that it's just a used 700 R4. Hopefully we don't find any surprises in there. But that's going to be the first step. We got to get the pan off, find out what we've got inside, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to grab some of the tools that I need, which is a ratchet and I think a 7/16 socket, and we'll be able to drop the pan off there. Hopefully it doesn't fight us too much. And we'll take a look at what's inside and hopefully not make a ATF disaster all over the shop floor. So let's get started. Right. That's not so bad. Made less of a mess than I expected. Oh man, that's good stuff. Let me get my hands cleaned up so that I can handle the camera, and then I'll show you what we found. Getting the pan off was it's a little messy. Didn't exactly go as good as I wanted it to, but for the most part, it didn't go everywhere, and I caught more than I lost. So that's a win in itself. Don't mind my homebrew transmission work stands. It is what it is, okay? You do with what you got, and this is what I had, so that's what I did. Anyway, in the pan, let's drain this out a little bit. Get there. Okay. So, most of the fluid that came out of here came out real good and clean, and there's, not even in the frame. There's very little residual left in here for sludge. I mean, you're always going to find in any transmission that's been run, unless it's brand new and has very low miles on it, you're going to find some material in there, some clutch material. It's just the nature of clutches. That's what wears. But the bottom of the pan is not totally coated in sludge. Or a ton of material, which it does have a magnet, which is good. That catches any, I believe that's a magnet anyway. That's not as good though. That is what just came off the magnet in there. That's a good bit of junk. But it's where you want it to be. It's in that magnet. Not the end of the world. I don't think it's enough wear or bad enough in the pan to say that there's a major transmission issue or that the clutches are shot. And the car did drive pretty good. It did shift pretty good. I don't see any indications of a major problem. I think it's a cleanup, a new filter, and we shouldn't have an issue throwing the new governor in it and being able to put this transmission back into service. But I am not an automatic transmission expert, and so I'm kind of shooting in the dark here. I have no fun. I really have no clue. Okay, I think that this looks okay. If it's not, and you're a transmission expert and you're watching this video, I'll give the close up here in a second, but if this is bad, like transmission needs to go to a transmission shop and be completely rebuilt, let me know. So I don't end up stuck on the side of the road sometime in the future, which is probably going to happen anyway. But, so yeah, I'll give you a close up on that. We'll get the filter out of there. I kind of want to cut that open and see how much yuck is in the filter as well, just to have an idea of what we're working with, and then we'll clean up and start putting it back together, because I intend to put it back in the car. And if you hadn't noticed, what you're hearing is the wind. It is, I don't know, like 2 o'clock on a Sunday or on a Saturday, and the temperature outside is beautiful. The sun is out. It's 65, 70 degrees. However, they're predicting wind gusts of upwards of like 50, 60 miles an hour today. And the constant wind speeds are probably in like the 20 to 30s. So we've already had a power flicker. It wasn't on camera, but if it suddenly goes black in here, don't worry, I'll fumble around until I find a flashlight, and we'll go from there and keep trying to work in the dark, I guess. That's how it goes. You tell me, what do you think about this fluid coming out of here? Any good? Ooh. SPX filters. I've never heard of them. Made in China. Good thing we're not using that one no more. But, so there's that. Take a better look. All right, transmission experts, here now's your chance to rate the condition of my oil pan remnants. How bad is it? Again, this is a 700 R4. I have no clue how many miles are on it. I don't know how long it's been in this car. I don't know what it came out of, and I haven't run the case numbers to even know what era of 700 R4 it is. It's that era. It's that era of 700 R4. Well, just got done eating some lunch with the wife. She's out doing a garage sale right now, and I'm hiding in the shop doing this stuff because it's, well, garage sales, they're kind of annoying. But anyway, while sitting there eating some pizza and stuff in my face, we had a customer show up. customer show up, and up in the house garage, we've got the little blue 4-door, which if you're new to the channel or haven't watched it in a while, you know, any of the earlier stuff, you have no clue about the little blue 4-door, but that's besides the point. And he, you know, we talked a little bit about that. It was a car guy, and turns out he works for a shop that does car stuff. And I'm like, oh, cool. So I started talking to him a little bit, and well, guess what? He works for a place that does transmission work. I'm concerned that that might be a sign, seeing as I'm doing transmission work and don't know anything about doing transmission work. And a guy who does transmissions just happens to come by my wife's garage sale. So, I got a business card from him just in case, because, you know, there's a chance that I might need to go see someone who does transmissions if this ends up not working out for me. Anyway, let me show you where we're at. So I cleaned up most of the disaster that occurred over here where the Exxon Valdez decided to visit the shop again, which required half a roll of paper towels and some Berryman's B12 chem tool, which is fantastic stuff for cleaning up messes. Got the pan all cleaned up the magnet, which I imagine is similar for most of these. This is just a magnet that sticks to the pan, so be sure when you do this, if you're gonna do it, you know, take it on like I am, that you actually pull that up and clean up all around and underneath it. Easy to do. The new filter's right there, and I've already cleaned up the flange, which the way the camera is right now, I can't show you because the stick's in the way, but we'll look under there in a second. That's pretty much ready to start putting this stuff in. But I realized one very significant thing that could cause problems. The new filter has this little rubbery guy on there, which is the little gasket that seats up in the bottom of the transmission. And it kind of holds the filter in there and seals it up to the pickup of however the pump works in that witchcraft of an automatic. And when the old filter came out, look at that. There's no gasket on it, which means the gasket's probably still up in there. So I'm gonna have to fish my way up. Oh, let's see if this is gonna work. There we go. I'm not gonna go all the way under with the camera because there's still ATF dropping out from underneath here. But I'm gonna have to fish my way up in where the pickup is, right there, and see if I can get that gasket out of there. Hopefully it won't be too much of a pain in the neck. And then we'll be able to start putting this back together. But if you look, you know, everything under here, this all looks pretty good. I don't see anything, at least to my very untrained eye, when it comes to transmissions, that looks bad. So I don't know if we have good stuff, if we have bad stuff, if we have stock stuff, or if we've got aftermarket stuff. We've just got transmission stuff. So that's that. I decided to film this because it was actually kind of a little bit of a pain in the neck to get to that seal. So what we're talking about here is this is your ATF filter, and it shoves up in the bottom of the transmission right here where this is hanging down right now. And it's got this little gasket on it right there. I don't know if I can see it with the light, but there's a little gasket on here, right? That gasket, when I pulled the old filter out, did not come out with the old filter. So I took picks like this and had to get under there, and you got to fish it just right. But you want to make sure when you're doing that you don't drag the point of the pick on that little bore up there, because that can create grooves or scratches in there that can affect how it seals and the suction of the pickup, I would suspect. I mean, with most other things, that's the case. So I really had to work at it to get the pick in there, but once I got the pick behind it, I was able to get it to turn a little bit, and it turned where it went from being horizontal. I was able to get a hold of it and pull it down and hook it without dragging the pick on the bore that this has to slide up into. But there's our old gasket, which is, it's actually really hard. I expected it to be like a softer rubber. Well, the new one's pretty hard too. I was expecting a softer rubber, but so yeah, that's the old one. You want to make sure that this does not get left behind in your transmission when you're changing out your filter, because if I wouldn't have pulled that out of there and I would have just ramrodded this guy on home, it would have had two gaskets in it. The filter wouldn't have gone up high enough, and then we may have had problems with putting the pan on, with this being bottomed out in the pan, or if it didn't bottom out in the pan, it still would have been a lot closer to the bottom of the pan, which means we would have been picking up more of the fluid right off the bottom of the pan, ultimately causing potential excess debris, dirt, grime, clutch material, all the shit that collects in the bottom of the pan to get picked up more in the filter and potentially go through the transmission. So make sure that there's not a seal left behind. That's what that boils down to. And when we're shoving the new one in, you want to use a little, make sure you get the new seal with a little bit of oil on it so that it'll slide in there decent. And I'm just grabbing some oil off the bottom of these components because there's still ATF dripping off of everything in here. Get those little drips before they end up on my face anyway. Alright, got that nice coat of oil on it, and then this, we just, right there, that's, and we, my hands are oily, and we just work it back into where it goes. Pan's all bolted up. I went and took those bolts to 10 foot-pounds. I got out my little baby torque wrench and put 10 foot-pounds on it. And let me tell you what, 10 foot-pounds is not very much. You could easily overdo 10 foot-pounds with a regular size 3/8 ratchet. You could easily overwrench 10 foot-pounds. So keep that in mind if you're doing pan gasket. Pay attention to how tight you put those. Overdoing 10 foot-pounds is really easy to do. What I could find, and I looked it up just to be sure, the specs, the range on what this pan should be tightened up to, anything I could find online was anywhere from 8 foot-pounds up to 12 foot-pounds. So I went with 10 right in the middle, which I saw multiple times as well. Basically, you're trying to get a good compression on that gasket without blowing it out or over tightening it and breaking bolts off. So 10's what I went with. Next, moving on from that, as you can see, I've got a little hooky tool. We're going to see about pulling the tail shaft seal out because it was leaking before, and I got a new one to put in there. We'll see what the bushing. This seal also came with a new bushing for in here. I don't know if I'm going to be doing that. We'll see what that looks like once we get that seal out of there and decide then if that's going to be a necessity. If it is a necessity, then I'll figure out how to do that. So if all goes well, this little seal puller, I should be able to just hook this seal, give it a couple of thumps with my palm, and pop it on out of here. So let's see if we can make that happen. I don't like the way it pushes on the shaft. That doesn't feel good. You know, I've never really had much luck with these seal pullers. But, oh, there we go. Just like that. The seal is out, didn't screw with anything. It bent that seal a little bit, so don't plan on using this on a seal you want to put back in. Oh man, it's splattered all over me. Son of a gun. Just got that cleaned up too. But yeah, so that's pretty simple. We'll have to clean the end of this a little bit. Get the grime out of there. And I need a light. Need a light. Where's my light? I don't know where my light is. Son of a gun. I'll be right back with you when I find my light. I lost it. I don't know where it's at. My fancy dancy magnetic light that works really well. Can't find it anywhere. I don't know what I did with it. It's grew legs and walked away in my very organized, where I know where everything is shop. Anyway, I did find one of my cheapo little flashlights, enough so to take a look at that bushing in there. So let's take a look at that real quick. Here's what a brand new one looks like. You can see it's got all kinds of nice dimpling. It's got an oil groove in it, which I'm sure has, no, it's got a couple of oil grooves in it, which I'm sure go in a specific position. Maybe not, maybe it doesn't matter. But I don't think that I don't think that we're actually going to need to put that in. Hold on, I'm getting down on the ground. Let's shine a little bit of light in here. I don't know if any of this is going to show up on the camera, but this bushing looks, trying to get a camera angle where we can actually see in there. Probably a crapshoot with the camera angle. Anyway, what I am seeing is a bushing that looks really good. All the dimplings there. I don't see any abnormal wear. So we're not going to change that bushing. I'm going to go ahead and run the one that's in there. We're just going to put the new tail seal in and send it on down the road. Good old clean out. Now with some brake clean. Give it a good wipe down. Now, I am not about to tell you that the way I'm going to install this is the right way to do it. And hopefully I won't be redoing it again in the near future because I did it the wrong way. But who cares? It is what it is. Fortunately, it's a cheap seal. And it's not terrible to get to. So, first thing up, we can do this. Unfortunately, you can't just use a wood block on here to set this because the output shaft of the transmission sticks out past the end of the seal. So you have to get it set around the output shaft. If you have a socket big enough, that would work well. A piece of pipe would probably work well, but I don't have either. Definitely don't have a socket big enough to set it with this, and if I've got a piece of pipe, I don't know where it's at. But what I do have is a throwout bearing for a small block Chevy clutch setup. Just a good old basic throwout bearing that I never ran because I ended up running a hydraulic throwout bearing setup for the application this was originally for, and it happens to be just the right size to fit over the output shaft with a nice flat face on it. So we're going to use this to set the seal. Now you do want to make sure that you get the seal in pretty square. So for the initial start of it, just kind of work it around the sides, make sure it's pretty well straight. And once it's mostly straight, then you kind of want to just ramrod her on home and try and do it as square as possible. So, and watch your fingers because if they're in the wrong spot, you're going to pinch the living dog crap out of them. Here we go. Just like that. And if you want to, be extra sure it's seated all the way, just go ahead and give her another couple little love taps. I don't think that actually was seated quite all the way, based on how that last one actually, you heard it sounded different when it set in there. But there we go. The new seal's installed, and I didn't even damage my throwout bearing, so it's still good. I'll still run that. One final thing we got to do on this transmission before we're ready to mate it up to the little small block is we got to change out the governor. This was something that was a problem for me a little while back. Basically, the car stopped shifting out of first gear. It would it'd go into reverse, it'd go into neutral, go into first, go into park all properly, but it wouldn't shift out of first gear. And the problem ended up being that the governor, it's got a shuttle valve in it, and that shuttle valve was getting stuck and not moving freely. We cleaned it up with some brake clean and put it back in there, test drove the car, and it started shifting again, which alleviated a lot of my concerns for it being something internal having completely failed. and needing to completely rebuild the transmission. But basically I want to get rid of this potentially problematic part. I don't know if the governor itself has a problem, or if that was the result of maybe some debris in the fluid got to the governor and bound it up. I don't know. Either way, we're going to get rid of it. I went ahead and got a new governor. I also got a new cover because this one's pretty banged up. Someone's clearly been in here before. The cover was tweaked, and so we're going to go ahead and pop this one off. I've got a new cover and a new governor. We'll slam those in there, and we'll be ready to hopefully not have that problem anymore. Seeing as I plan on not using this sheet metal stamped cover anymore, I'm going to go ahead and just use a screwdriver and my dead blow to pop this off of here. If you were planning on reusing this, the method I'm about to use, I wouldn't use it. I would be a little bit more cautious to not tweak it, because this cover, it doesn't take much to tweak the crap out of it to where it won't seal anymore. So keep that in mind. And it doesn't take much. It should have fluid in here, so I've put another bucket down, trying to catch some of that. Oh, pop out of there. Hopefully we don't make a ridiculous mess. All right, good. Not very much fluid, not a ridiculous mess. And I didn't totally annihilate that cover. It probably could be reused still, but we're not going to reuse it. We're going to be going to a new cover that I got to go along with the new governor. I guess that might be of actually some value to somebody. The part that I went with is made by Sonax, S-O-N-N-A-X. It's a governor blue gear. And that's exactly what it says on the box. 4L60s and 700R4s can use the same part number. And this is what it looks like. I don't know if there's a performance difference in this one versus what's in the car. I do know that with these governors, that the spring rate that's in here can be different, and that can change when your shift points occur. All of that has to do with the inertia. As this is spinning, these little guys flip open, and as they flip open and closed, there's a little shuttle valve inside these little windows that goes back and forth and sends the ATF different places that will make it shift differently. And I'm gonna have to sneeze here in a second. Driving me nuts. I've got that, that weird feeling right in your schnoz where it's there and you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to sneeze, but it's not. Yeah, that's what's going on. Anyway, as far as taking this guy out, all you gotta do is rotate it clockwise and it'll slide out. So there's the old one, there's the new one. They look more or less the same. I don't know if the springs are the same weight, and I don't really care. I am going to box this one up and keep it, since it did decide to start working again. It's not a bad part to have on the shelf in a pinch, versus putting the new one in. There's two other common failures with these governors, other than just the shuttle valve getting stuck. The gear that's on here is just a hard plastic of some sort, and they can either wear out to where there's no teeth left on it and it's just slipping on the drive gear that's inside there, or it's got a roll pin that holds this plastic gear in place on here, and if the roll pin comes out, that can cause problems. Granted, if you find that you have one where the roll pin has come out of it, you're probably going to want to at least take the tail shaft of your transmission apart, or potentially take your transmission into a transmission shop to have it completely disassembled, cleaned, and put back together, because that roll pin can find its way into other places where it can do a whole lot of damage. So yeah, this is not necessarily a bad part, it's just one that I don't trust anymore, so we're going to put it on the shelf as a spare for down the road. and shove the brand new Sonex unit in. These are from what I researched and found, this is the best way to go for these, at least for a stock-ish application. There might be some other stuff out there in the high-end race community, you know, the stuff that maybe someday when I grow up I'll be able to play with. But for now, this is the world I live in. So what I am going to do before I shove that in there is I'm going to tilt the transmission a little bit so fluid doesn't run out right here, which actually is kind of yucky fluid. May have contributed to part of our getting something stuck in there, but it doesn't look like I need to roll. It's not really running out. It's just residual. But yeah, so we're gonna get this cleaned up, same as we did the tail shaft. Shove that one, the new governor in, and put the new cap on, which I'll have to see if I have something good for doing that. Just a little bit of brake clean in here to clear that out. I don't know if that's good for it or not, but we didn't actually squirt it down inside the transmission, just kind of in this opening. So that'll be fine, just fine. All right, we're cleaned up, we're ready to go. I'm going to install the new governor. This is as simple as taking the other one out. I did take a little bit of the residual ATF and just put a nice light coat of oil on the what would be basically a bearing type surface, these three shiny spots. Put a little bit of oil so that it slides in there nice and smooth without any issues. And then as it goes in, you'll feel it'll want to start to turn. There it goes, and it's in. That's it. That's as simple as the install is for the governor. There's no fanciness, there's no tuning of it, no adjustments. It's put it in there. Now you'll notice it's got a little nipple right here on the head of it right here. That nipple rides against, or basically right up close to the cap, and that's what keeps the governor from pushing away out of the transmission. So it's important when you go to install your cap that you don't just take the cap and beat on the end of it. As you can see, this cap, whoever did anything with it before I had it, beat the snot out of this cap. What that does is that jams the cap into the governor, which ultimately is probably going to cause some wear issues and may have contributed to the fact that we had some problems with that one we took out of there. May have been driven by the fact that this cap was beat on this center surface. You don't want to do that. So here's my new cap. It's a TCI cap, spun stainless. I think it's stainless. I don't know. It's not aluminum, I don't think. And it doesn't say on here what it's made out of. Doesn't say what material this is, but it was like 17 bucks, right? Nah, not much. I think it's stainless. But what the box does tell you, it doesn't tell you what it's made out of, but it does tell you that this may cause cancer. This may cause cancer and reproductive harm. So keep that in mind. That's your warning. That was a terrible throw. Anyway, moving on. So what you do want to do when you go to install this is you want to basically seat it out here around where this flange is that goes into the transmission. You don't want to hit the center at all. Don't hit the center. It actually came with some instructions, and the instructions recommended a PVC pipe. I don't have a piece of PVC pipe that will fit over this, but after doing a little digging around in the shop, I found this roll of packing tape that's probably like a 3/4 used or something. I don't know. Whatever the case is, it's a perfect fit. Fits like a glove, and the outside of it's almost exactly the same diameter as the cap. So I'm going to use that as my tool for getting this seated. So I'm just going to start it lightly in place because I kind of want to try and get the TCI logo upright. Ooh, she's going to be a good tight fit. All right. And then take my roll of packing tape. There we go. Oh, don't knock the transmission over. Now, that's still a problem, you know, as far as you got nothing to hit on, but that's where a wood block comes in. And you basically just, again, dead blow for stuff like this is your friend. It helps transfer, dead blows help transfer more inertia into what you're setting without having to, you know, really wail on it. It's a key tool. You want a dead blow. And I'm just going to lightly tap this in. Make sure it's going straight. Almost there. That's a weird way to swing the dead blow. And I'm worried about knocking the transmission over. I really don't want it to fall off the jack stands. There we go. So all you need to install a governor cap clean, a partially used roll of packing tape, a wood block, and a dead blow. Our transmission is ready to go. We've got new filter, new pan gasket, new tail shaft seal, replaced the governor, and installed the nice new pretty TCI governor cap, all with some basic hand tools, nothing crazy. Only thing the transmission needs at this point is ATF to be added, which I'm not going to do right now because I forgot to get the ATF. So we'll put a big old piece of masking tape on the windshield of the car that says no ATF. That way, before we ever try and start it up, I know that I need to add ATF, which will probably be the same for motor oil because I don't have any of that either right now, I don't think. Maybe I've got the oil for this motor, I don't know. Either way, it doesn't have oil in it right now, so we'll have to add oil to the motor before we go to start it up. Next up is, since the transmission's ready, I think the motor's ready enough to make the transmission up. I just want to look at a couple of things on the back of the motor, make sure that looks all right. I think there might have been an oil leak, but I don't know exactly where it was at. So I'll see if I can identify that. If not, then we're just going to make it up and go for it. And you know, what's the worst that's happened? We got an oil leak that we got to deal with in the future. Oh, well, it is what it is, you know? So give me a few minutes to get things reset, get the picker out, and we'll see if we can't marry the 700 R4 and the 327 for install in that old girl over there. Yeah, good progress today. I feel like I'm getting things done. Good news. The wind has calmed down. The rain has arrived. I'm glad I'm not working outside. Russell, I'm sorry. This would have killed you. It's getting kind of ugly. Anyway, more good news. You remember how I said I couldn't find my my fancy dancy light, my magnetic light? Well, I finally got to the point where these two need to be hoisted together to make them one. And I grabbed the cherry picker to bring it out, and I found it. It was on the bottom of the leg on the cherry picker. When or why I put it there, I have no clue, but it must have been deliberate. But yeah, so found my light. Good news. The wind is gone. I found my light. Bad news, it's really noisy in here because of the rain. Anyway, I got a few more things to do as far as getting the motor ready to make to the transmission. I need to get it off the engine stand storage cradle, and so that I can put the flywheel on. And once the flywheel is on, I gotta dig the bell housing bolts out of my bolt bin. Fortunately, they're bagged and marked, so I know they're in there. But I need the bell housing bolts and the torque converter bolts so I can put that all together nice and happy. Then we'll be able to slide the car over and send her on home. And hopefully all that'll happen within the next, I don't know, hour or so. Fingers crossed. Check out how quiet it is. I mean, my fan's running, but the wind outside is gone and the rain is gone. It's so much more peaceful. I should go turn the fan off. You know what? I'll be right back. I'm gonna go turn the fan off. Listen, it's so quiet I can whisper. It's fantastic. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. All right, I kept busy. Because of how loud it was, I didn't do a whole lot of filming with the chaos because it was loud in here. When you have a metal building with a metal roof and not much for insulation and it starts raining, it sounds like the building's being, I don't know, hit with a machine gun. Constant. Anyway, as you can see, the 327 and the 700 R4 have become one. And I'm ready to stuff it in the car. So we're gonna go ahead and get it shoved on in there. I don't know how much past that we're gonna go. We'll see if we can get it in there on the mounts. And well, that's probably where we're gonna end up. We'll start looking at things. Hey, you know what? I gotta play with the headers too. Hey, let's get this underway. So close, but yet so far away. As you can see, it's still hanging on the picker. And you probably saw me a lot of back and forth in that little high-speed clip of whatever it is I do in the video editing. But run into a problem. The motor mounts don't work. They don't line up right. There's two types of small block Chevy motor mounts. Typically, there's a tall mount and a short mount. Apparently, I have short mounts and I need tall mounts. So here, let me show you what that looks like. That, as you can see, the transcooler line's in the way, of course. But you can see I've got a bolt. It's pinned in right there, but that one's in, right? If I come around over here onto the other side, oh, sorry, my knee just whacked the camera. You can see that my ear of my mount doesn't reach the motor mount on the chassis. It's perfect. It's exactly what you want. I don't have the trans cross member in yet. There's a jack under the back of the transmission because I've been wiggling it around. That's what a lot of the back and forth was going underneath and adjusting the position of the transmission, trying to get these motor mounts to go in place. But it's just not going to happen. These mounts aren't going to get there. If I lower the motor, it just goes, you know, it'll just pivot down, and those two holes aren't going to make it. And if we look down here, there's a finger width of space right here, so the motor really can't go any lower, otherwise it's hits the rack. So that's where we're at. The motor mounts that I have won't work. I'm not sure if I have other motor mounts around that will. So yeah, if I come over here and let's see what I got over here on the shelf. Yeah, sorry, it's kind of dark over here in the corner. That's not a motor mount. I have solid steel mounts, but I really don't want to run solid steel mounts on this car. And I think that these are shorts as well. I don't think those are tall mounts. And then the only other mounts I have are these monstrosities, which you can't really see because they're black and we're in the dark. But if I come over here, there we go. Now you can see this thing. They're not the right mounts either. They are tall, but they're also the wide clamshell for a late model application like that little S10 over there hiding in the corner. That's what these are for. So the only thing I possibly could do, at least to try and figure out to see if the height is right, at least, is I could bolt these up and see if they line up, but they're a lot wider than what's needed for this car. It needs the narrow mount, not the wide mount. So we're in a pickle. Trying to decide on, man, the light is, I'm standing where there's terrible light. It's killing me. Oh, there's my face. Trying to decide how to proceed here. I don't want to create more work for myself than necessary. Changing out the mounts just to get it pinned, just have to change the mounts again later would mean I need to hook the picker back up. But if I leave it right here the way it is, there's no way I can bring anything else really into the shop because I can't move it right now because there's a jack underneath and a cherry picker on the front of it. I can't put the trans cross member in until I get the motor on the front mounts because I don't know how much I'm gonna have to jockey that around to wiggle it and make it work. It's a lose-lose situation. This car has continued to battle me all the way through. Every time I turn around, there's something else that's just either a misstep on my part where I didn't get the right parts and didn't realize it, i.e. the motor mounts that I have, or it's a different problem that lurks its ugly little head out, like bad parts such as those CPP inner fenders. Anyway, because I'm at a stalemate point here and I can't really do much else until I can get it off the picker and have it mounted in there, this is where we're going to wrap it up. So the next video, I'll do something. I don't know. You'll have to check back in on the next one to find out what's next. We are getting closer. We have made progress. The 327 and the 700 R4 are together. They're ready to go. I just got to get them mounted in the car properly so that we can move on to the next step, which is going to be plumbing. That's going to be brakes and fuel. And then we'll get the front clip on. Once we get the front clip on, we can do the wiring. Once the wiring's done, we should be able to drive the car. Yeah. So we're getting there. We're really starting to get there. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to jump on down below, hit that subscribe button if you stuck around this long for the video, because that means you have some sort of inkling in watching me suffer through figuring this stuff out. We're not all experts, but you know, if you're not getting out there and you're not doing it, you won't ever get any better at it. Plus, even though it's frustrating, it's kind of part of the fun of building the cars, getting through all of this stuff, and the feeling of victory when you do get it right. So we will see you guys on the next one.